Hi there, this is Jen, and thank you for joining me today for another visible image project. So today's project, I am using the Sketch Tulips stamp set, and I will also be using a sentiment from the Better Days Ahead stamp set. And then I pulled out several stencils, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to use all of them or not, but I've got the hexagon stencil, the Count Me In stencil, and the Bubbles and Fizz, which I don't end up using that. And I thought I'd do some ink smooshing today. I haven't done it in quite a while, and it's a super fun technique. And so I thought I'd go ahead and do a little bit of that. And I knew for this card I wanted a gray background or a darker background and then a brighter color on my flowers. And so I'm using different shades of gray and kind of a gray-blue color. I am using a glass mat that I've had for quite a bit. I just never use it, I think, because the light shine on it, and that bothers me a little bit. But I am going to make a bigger card size. It's close to 5 by 7, and so I'm just taking a piece of plastic stamp packaging, and I have swatched out my different colors on my glass mat, and then I've spritzed that with water. And I'm taking that plastic packaging and basically just pouncing it on my cardstock. This is a Bristol smooth cardstock, so it takes water really well. But all I'm going to do is just pick up the color. I've kind of got my the plastic folded a little bit, and just pouncing it leaves those little kind of watermarks or little almost like droplets on there. And then to get more coverage, I'll smooth it out in some areas. But I mean, really, ink smooshing is all about what you want it to look like. And so really there's no right or wrong way to do it. But I'll just keep on adding the colors, and the colors that I'm using are actually distress inks. And so I use the Pumice Stone, the Stormy Sky, Hickory Smoke, and Weathered Wood are the colors. And I just went ahead and added those colors and dried in between some of the layers until I got a look that I was happy with. And it was a little warped, the paper. So what I did was I have the Sizzix, the like electric one. Basically I put it in between, another piece of paper in there and then put it in between my pads just like I was running a die through it, and then I just left it kind of in the middle. So I turned it on and I stopped it so it was like midway between start and finish, and just left it there while I did this portion of the card, which is basically just coloring up the tulips. And I went ahead and I stamped up the tulips on some Bristol smooth cardstock using some Versafine black ink, and I am coloring up these with my Tombows. The colors I used were mainly 245, 195, and 133, if you're interested in knowing what those are. And I'm going to go ahead and color these all up the same. I dry in between the different layers of colors just because Tombows generally don't do well with, because they are kind of, I believe it's felt or nylon tip. They don't do well with direct to water type of applications, and so I like to get that nice and dry before I go ahead and add the next color. But I'm going to add a little bit of stamping over these, and so I have prepped my paper with my anti-static bag, and from the Sketch Tulip set there's this really cool kind of cursive writing stamp. And so I am adding some of my Versamark Watermark Ink, and I'm just stamping that up just by holding that. It sticks really well to your fingers, so I'm just taking my fingers and adding that over all of the tulips. And then I'm going to use some white embossing powder to cover that watermark ink. That'll go ahead and stick on that ink because it is a wet ink, and it will give me time to get my heat tool ready and melt that embossing ink. And then I just went ahead and I fussy cut them all out. I did not leave any type of border around the outside. I didn't want that white border. And then I went ahead and I matted my main background onto both a gray and a white mat. And I'm going to add a little bit of the stencils from the Count Me In is the stencil. So I'm going to take one of those grays that I used for the background and just really lightly stencil through on several areas of the card. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the, I think this one's called Hexagon Hex. So I'm doing that mainly in the middle, and then I'll fill in some of the white space with that same stencil as well. And again, I'm just doing it really lightly. I don't want this to overpower my background. So it kind of just looks like little fractures almost in the background. And then I will start assembling the rest of my card. And so for all of the tulips, I went ahead and I'm just taking my fingers and kind of folding the tulips. I just love doing this with flowers and butterflies. I just a habit to make them a little bit more dimensional. And so I'm just trying to get them so they're not going to be totally flat. And then I'm taking some 1/8 inch foam strips, and I will add that to the back of the main portion of the tulip and to the back of the leaf area. I did not worry about the stem because it would be supported by both of the top and the bottom. There's going to be foam, and I honestly did not even want to deal with that tiny little space. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll take the release paper off of the foam, and I added some liquid adhesive just to make sure that this stayed where I wanted it to stay. And I'll go ahead and add the center flower first just to hopefully get my spacing somewhat correct. I didn't, but that's okay. And there are two things that I struggle with greatly in card making, and that is sequin placement and sentiments. And not picking out the sentiments, but trying to figure out what kind of paper, colored paper, do I heat emboss it? What color do I heat emboss it? And I did that on this card. I tried a green piece of paper, a gray piece of paper, and then I just ended up going with white because it looks the cleanest. I actually, when I look at this video, I like the green. I think it's really pretty. But just out of curiosity, which one would you have chosen, the gray, the green, or the white? It's just, the struggle is real for me on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and cover up my flowers and add a little bit of black splatter. I'm using a fan brush because it gives tiny little splatters. And then when I do the white, I just use the regular brush that I always use for white because it gives me a little bit of a bigger splatter. But that's going to finish off the card for today. I hope you like this. I've been struggling a little bit with mixed media, which is my first love. And so I was really kind of bummed that I've been struggling with it a little bit. But I hope you like this. If you did enjoy this video or find it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. As always, I thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me, and I hope to see you next time.